thank you very much. I'm really pleased to be here, and it's a great crowd. So, more recycling is not, Bill and I are not related, though we've known each other as long as I've known many of my relations for a long time. We've served on the NRC board together about 1 million years ago. But like him, I'm an independent consultant, and we specialize in the plastics sector. So we'll start with the bad news. Of course, we have to start with the bad news, right, Kent? So you can see this is the gray in the background is oil pricing, and the bars are various grades of rigid plastic. Along the bottom there is OCC, just for referral. So what we're seeing is that the plastics do sort of follow oil pricing, but there are anomalies in there. Okay, so you can see some of the anomalies where here, for example, oil was dropping, but this is natural HDPE, and what happened was we had a new player in the marketplace. We had those great heady days last summer of high natural HDPE prices. It was wonderful, but no more. Anyway, so I think since I was asked you the question, Kent, I believe that with plastics we have also hit bottom. I think that we could, it's a little bit more dicey because of those unforeseen circumstances. I like that one. But it really, there's so many outside influences that impact this, and one of them is what's going to happen between OPEC and Iran and the U.S. and where we go from there. And also, how deep is the commitment by the virgin resin industry to help solve this problem? And here's why I think that we can be. So there are better times coming. And here's one of the reasons I think that that's the case. Largely because there is a huge interest in reducing greenhouse gas emissions by just about everybody, except those hardline people who don't think it matters, but there are not too many of those. Most of us realize that what we need to do is to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. And one of the quick ways that organizations can do that is by using recycled content over virgin materials. And you see tremendous greenhouse gas savings by doing that for a number of commodities, the paper, the metals, and the plastic specifically. And so I think this is going to be a driver. And the other thing I wanted to let you know is that despite the fact that we all think that all plastic just gets exported, it's really not the case. This is the growth in the domestic purchases of, these are the common plastic commodities out of households, the bottles, the non-bottle rigids, and the film. But you can see that exports have been essentially flat for the last few years. And all the growth we've seen in our market is in the domestic buyers. And here's why. There's been a tremendous amount of growth in the capacity to reclaim PET, and you can see that the capacity to turn those old soda water bottles into raw clean material far exceeds the supply that we currently are generating in this country. So we could handle all of it and then some. Are actually importing material, or they were when end market values were higher. With the high density, you can see again, we have more than enough reclamation capacity for all the high density bottles that we generate. And but that's not the case with the non-bottle rigids and the film, and that's why those are the commodities that you may be having difficulty moving, because those are the ones that we've relied more heavily on the export market for. So I'm going to go through each of these. Jean, I didn't realize that you were going to be talking about foam, so I'll just touch on it quickly. So, and I don't want to steal your thunder. So, with PET, really, what's happening is that the reclaimers are being squeezed, as is talked about in the previous two presentations. They have fixed costs to convert that dirty material to clean material, And really the only way that they can economically operate is to push back down to the generators and try to get a better bale yield to improve the quality of their incoming supply. Because they aren't able to sell it for more. In fact, it's been dropping. And along this, we saw a big push and drive to be able to handle the PET non-bottle material, the thermoforms, the containers, the clamshells, those things. And there's a lot of interest in that, but especially with auto sort equipment, if you auto sort that material, you're going to get the bottle and the non-bottle together. And what's happened is that the PET thermoform industry has not worked as closely with the reclamation community as the bottles guys. The bottle guys have been working with the reclaimers for years. So with the PET, the thermoforms, the packaging, they haven't. And they use mostly paper labels and not the plastic labels that you see on the bottle. Those paper labels are very problematic for the reclaimers. Having to do with getting it off, the kind of glues they use, the inks, the bleeding labels, it's really a difficult situation that people are working on. But as a result of the fact that it is a more mixed commodity, the buyers of the bottles don't want a very high percentage of the thermoforms in there. The material itself is very similar. In fact, a PET thermoform IV, people think that they're really different, but they're not than the bottles. The PET IV for a thermoform container, clamshell, cake dome, those sorts of things is almost identical to that of the water bottles. So it's chemically very close together. It's really just these other issues that are slowing things down. It's not really a problem for you guys here in Florida because you're not a deposit state. The places where it's a real issue is where the bottle bill states, where they've pulled a lot of those bottles out. So the percentage of thermoforms in an auto sort system can be as high as 30%. And they're the ones that are really suffering. So here's one advantage you have here. High density, the real story here is just, there is no story. Other than that one blip we saw where we had a new player in the marketplace, what happened is we had some normalization. Someone came out of the marketplace. Now we're back to even. Most of this material is sold domestic. It's really just a non thing here. We just don't have the bottles. You can't grow the reclamation industry if you don't grow the virgin bottle industry, and that's not happening. For the non-bottle rigids, we're seeing a lot of growth because until recently, more and more communities are collecting beyond bottles, and the good news is that we're growing the homes for those, we're growing the infrastructure for that, but we're not there yet, as I noted. You can see the growth here. Let's see if I can do this without screwing up. The growth in the last couple years has been this green there. That's a pre-pick bale or the 3 through 7 bale, depending on what you want to call it. So we saw a lot of growth in that, but you can also see that a lot of that went to the export market in 2014, and that's the mixed grade. The biggest growth has been in this big blue, the big blue bar. That's the segregated resins, and what we're seeing is that's the material that's easiest to move and continues to move. Okay. I wanted to just point out to you, anybody who does education and outreach, I strongly recommend that you look at this terms and tools. It's a resource that we've put together to try to harmonize the language that we use to talk to people about collecting plastics. Because everywhere I go, I've yet to have anybody tell me this isn't true. The thing that people are most confused about, residents are most confused about, is the plastic. They're like, they don't know what to put in, what to include, what not to include. And that's not too surprising when your work, your school, and your home may all be using different languages to talk about what sort of plastics they do accept. They may even be feeding into the same MRF, but they're still using different language to describe it. So what we're trying to do is harmonize that language. We're working with a lot of different groups like the Recycling Partnership and others to try to continue to refine this and harmonize it. But I strongly recommend using it. It has some great resources. You can make your own flyers, things like that. For film, the big issue here is that we're really pushing on these days is try to avoid getting the film into the curbside bins. We have a great infrastructure, which I'll show you, to collect this material, but generally, almost always, the curbside bin is not the place to be putting the film in bags. And here's why. That green line at the bottom is the value of curbside film. And you can see right now it's a non-starter. There is no value to it. It's not a great commodity. Some people are trying to do a better sort, get it cleaner, but it's really not a great material. Whereas that blue line, which still has value, is the mixed film. That would be something that would come out of the grocery store, a mixture of the front end material that's brought by the consumer combined with their pallet wrap. And then the red line is the pure pallet wrap, which is a very, very clean material. So we really can't recommend putting it in the curbside, but we have this huge network of drop-off locations around the country. And we recently did a study with the City of Vancouver, and which is also available online, showing that if you tell consumers don't put the film, don't bag your recyclables, because that's something that a lot of people, they want to do a really good job and they clean all their recyclables and then they put them in a bag and then they put them in the bin. It's amazingly common. Or they just really want to recycle that bags and film, so they put that in the bin. And so they did a study to really educate and push really hard and not just say don't put the film in. That wasn't good enough. When they said don't put your film in the curbside bin, take it back to the retailer, and they worked with Safeway stores to really promote this. They found over 70% reduction in the amount of film in their curbside. 70%, and then a huge increase, over 100% increase in the amount of film and bags that were going back to the stores. So that is also available online, that study, and it really shows that all you have to do is tell people the right thing to do and they'll do it. So I'll just barely touch on this, that I think that the polystyrene foam has a lot of opportunity to be collected curbside, and largely because it's easy to identify, like the milk jug. Everybody knows what it is. So, I also think it's a commodity whose death has been greatly exaggerated. That dime there is surrounded by the amount of plastic that goes into making one foam cup. So it's a hugely resource efficient material, and it got a real bad rap, like the plastic bag, because it's visually, you see it in the world. But in terms of its properties for what it can do, and its use of raw materials is very, very low. So we have available, if you're interested, some best practices for MRFs. There's two options. You can pre-pick in the sort line at the pre-pick and just pull the clean foam, both the food service and the packaging, or you can use an auto sort system. If anybody's interested in this, I'd be happy to talk to you about it. We also have a resource if you're interested in the drop-off, or let's see, here's Florida, where you can take foam. This is online. It's on plastics. It's on recyclemoreplastic.org. So you can let your consumers know, if you live in any of these areas with drop-offs, that this is an option for them as well. So these are the resources that we have and are available, and I'm happy to answer questions at the end. Thank you very much.